In just 6 months, over 120,000 American retail workers lost their jobs. But strangely enough, the stocks of those companies rose the most on Wall Street. They call it efficiency. A single keyword that earned the CEO $1 million bonus, put a smile on shareholders' faces, and forced thousands of employees to pack up their desks in tears. From Amazon and Walmart to Nike, are retail giants playing an old tune, laying off people to please the profit algorithm. In today's video, let's explore 10 major retailers that are cutting staff, yet their stock prices remain high, to see if this is a cold calculation where human value is reduced to a percentage in profit reports. Come on, let's start with a very familiar name. Do you remember the days when Amazon was still called a job paradise? Hundreds of thousands of people wearing orange reflective vests move through the warehouse, believing they are contributing to the operation of the world's largest commercial machine. Now it's different. Every day, thousands of them are leaving with a cardboard box in hand while Wall Street pops champagne in celebration. 14,000 people lost their jobs in a single round, and according to leaked internal documents, Amazon plans to replace up to 600,000 positions with robots by 2033. That number sounds dry, but imagine 600,000 people, the equivalent of the population of Baltimore, disappearing from the payroll and being replaced by steel arms, camera eyes, and algorithms that never need a lunch break. Amazon calls it advanced automation, increasing efficiency, and you, me, and millions of others call it a legitimate way to turn people into excess costs. In 2024, Amazon reported revenue of $638 billion. The CEO received a $40 million bonus, and when the layoff news was announced, the stock rose 13% in just one day. On Wall Street, they call that a positive signal, and in the workers' dormitory, they call it, "What will I pay next month's rent with?" Amazon says they want to operate like a startup. Doesn't that sound strange? A company as large as France, with revenue nearly 3 times Vietnam's GDP, still likens itself to a startup. Their startup isn't about creating opportunities, but about streamlining people. In their world, every new robot added to the assembly line is a worker removed from the spreadsheet. And this is the part they don't say out loud. Robots don't need medical care, don't need vacation time, don't demand raises, and aren't afraid of overtime. Efficiency is a polite word to describe the process of stripping humanity from the business model. The question is, are startups like Amazon still symbols of innovation, or have they become pure profit factories? When humans are no longer the center, but merely a variable in the cost equation, meaning an error, where are we headed? And perhaps the greatest irony is this: we buy from Amazon every day, contributing to the rise in their stock price, while the people packing those items are the very ones who were laid off yesterday. They say Amazon is the biggest startup on the planet. That makes sense. The only difference is that this startup isn't starting with dreams anymore, but with a layoff notice. What do you think? Is this a step forward for technology or a step backward for humanity? After Amazon, we crossed a few hundred miles of I-40 highway and arrived in Bentonville, Arkansas, the home of another empire, Walmart. If Amazon is the largest startup on the planet, then Walmart is the largest employer in the United States, at least before they started replacing people with algorithms. In 2025, Walmart cut approximately 1,500 global office jobs while pouring billions of dollars into AI and warehouse management robots. They said, this is a step forward to increase efficiency. What about Walmart's stock? Soaring to an all-time high. A classic combo: layoffs combined with AI, resulting in price increases. Walmart was once a symbol of affordable jobs for the American working class, where parents work night shifts, their children study at university on internal scholarships. Now, that model has been replaced by a data center, where robotic arms move boxes and machine learning cameras track every employee's step. A former employee said, "Previously, my boss was a person. Now, my boss is the screen. It's both funny and chilling." Walmart says AI will help people work more efficiently. But think about it. When AI can check inventory, forecast stock levels, analyze shopping behavior, and suggest selling prices, what will humans have left to do? Perhaps standing guard to ensure the AI doesn't take a break. Walmart calls it automation for the future. Wall Street calls it a growth story. As for the workers, they call it being replaced by an SSD. Walmart isn't doing anything wrong. They're just doing what's right. In the logic of the market, the fewer people, the lower the cost. The lower the cost, the higher the stock price. A perfect loop, except that it's gradually eliminating the very people who used to stand in line at the checkout counter. There's an interesting paradox. Walmart says AI helps them understand customers better. But if AI understands too well, it will realize customers are getting poorer because many of them are the very people who used to work at Walmart. And as America's largest supermarket begins to automate emotions, one can only wonder, will robots one day be the ones smiling to greet you at the store? And where will the real person go? The answer might be at the nearest coffee shop, where Starbucks is brewing a similar recipe. Fewer people, more machines, and richer profits. Leaving the giant Walmart supermarket, we stopped at a roadside cafe in Seattle, where the smell of espresso was once a symbol of American morning energy. Starbucks. The brand was once built on smiles, misspelled names on cups, and a human touch. Now, even that smile is being cut back. In 2025, Starbucks laid off 1,100 office employees, and then a few months later, another nearly 900 positions. The reason given sounds very clean: restructuring to increase efficiency. The stock is up. The investors applauded, and the CEO called it a strategic move to mix a stronger future. It sounds like a new coffee recipe, except this time the ingredients are people. Starbucks is pouring over billion into operational optimization, which means replacing employees with sensors, cameras, and AI that predicts customer behavior. In many stores, baristas are left with only pressing buttons and clearing cups. Technology will take care of the rest. The problem is, people don't just go to Starbucks for the caffeine. They come for the experience, for the feeling of being greeted by name, of being served according to habit. Now what? Some guests shared that they felt like ordering from a vending machine, except with a mermaid logo. Of course, for Wall Street, everything is about profit. Starbucks shares rose more than 2% immediately after the first cut. Why? Increase efficiency. 3 short words, but enough to turn thousands of people into costs to be eliminated. Starbucks used to pride itself on its humanistic culture in business. They offer insurance, tuition reimbursement, and career advancement opportunities to their employees. Now, AI is learning to replace those who were once called partners. From partner to parameter. Just one word, but it makes all the difference. The funny thing is, Starbucks still calls this reinvestment in people. It sounds like they're adding sugar to a bitter cup of coffee so the drinker forgets its true taste. And when everything is automated, from ordering and brewing to payment, is Starbucks still a coffee brand or just a latte-scented money-making machine? And if Starbucks is mixing profits that way, then Dollar Tree, the cheapest empire in America, is choosing to cut half of its stores to survive. We continue our journey there. Family Dollar and Dollar Tree were once symbols of stores for everyone. These places once saved an entire town from starvation when Walmart was too far away and luxury supermarkets were out of reach. $1, it sounds small, but for many families, it's an entire dinner when their wallets are empty. Now, even those dollar stores are being sold for less than the shelf price. In 2025, Dollar Tree announced the sale of its entire Family Dollar chain to a private equity firm, while also closing hundreds of underperforming stores. The stock jumped 4% in just one day. On Wall Street, this is called a portfolio cleansing move. And for the thousands of employees who lost their jobs, it was simply a bad day measured in percentage of profit. Dollar Tree used to be the place where you could buy anything, from toilet paper to Christmas gifts, for just a few cents. Now, they're turning themselves into lean businesses, which means fewer stores, fewer people, and more investors. An employee said, "We are no longer a store for the poor, but a chart for the rich." That saying sounds both bitter and true. It is often said that when the body is weak, doctors will remove the necrotic part to keep the rest alive. With Dollar Tree, Family Dollar is the weak link. The problem is, when you keep chopping away, will there be anything left to call life? Because for every Family Dollar store that closes, a neighborhood loses its cheapest shopping option, being a single mother who has to drive an extra 15 miles to buy milk. It's a small community that has become a retail desert, a place where all that's left are gas stations and silence. Wall Street doesn't see those things. They only see the chart, an upward, radiant curve, as if everything is fine. But if you look closely, you'll see that every point on that road is a closed roof, a dream sold for less than $1. And while Dollar Tree chose to cut back to survive, Macy's, America's luxury giant, opted for a more elegant approach, closing numerous stores, but with its stock price soaring like Black Friday's sale season. Let's go on to there. Let's go. In the old days, Macy's was the soul of those malls, where people went on dates, bought their first dress, or waited for Santa Claus every winter. Now what? The lights are still on, but the buyers are gone. Macy's, a symbol of American luxury retail, is having to close stores in order to survive. In early 2025, they announced their bold new chapter plan, which sounds like a new chapter in a business novel. But in reality, this new chapter begins with the end of 150 stores. The remaining 350 or so are flagship stores, the most expensive stores, located in the wealthiest areas. Cut out the unprofitable parts, they said. And Macy's stock soared over 17% in just 1 week. On paper, that's the right strategy. Reduce costs, increase profits, focus on a premium experience. But if you look from the ground, at the abandoned commercial centers, the ghost malls that have sprung up in the heart of the city, the very luxury that Macy's once proudly promoted is now the reason they have to retreat from working-class neighborhoods where people no longer have the money to shop like they used to. On Wall Street, they call it streamlining the system. In real life, it's tens of thousands of people losing their jobs and hundreds of small businesses around them losing their customers as well. A shopping mall is not just a place to shop, it's an ecosystem for the community. Cut Macy's, and you cut the lifeblood of the entire neighborhood. And the irony is, the more stores Macy's closes, the more efficient it's praised for being. One investor once stated bluntly, "Every store that disappears is a stream of profit that emerges." The saying sounds like Wall Street philosophy written with the tears of employees. Now Macy's is like a once glorious beauty taking off her jewelry, hoping to look lighter in the eyes of shareholders. The question is, are they being reborn, or are they shrinking until they disappear? And while Macy's closed to survive, Best Buy, the blue electronics giant, chose a different path, cutting staff to maintain numbers. The next story might sound dry, but it's a perfect example of the cold mathematics of the market. Leaving the quiet shopping malls of Macy's, we cross Minnesota, the home state of Best Buy, the electronics retailer that was once the pride of America. In the old days, Americans didn't just go to Best Buy to buy TVs or laptops, but to get a glimpse of the future. And now, that future is being priced by the number of people being laid off. From 2024 to 2025, Best Buy has been continuously cutting staff, closing numerous small branches, and calling it a strategic restructuring. The result? Immediately after each announcement, the stock price increased. Profits exceeded expectations, the CEO smiled, and investors raised their glasses. And so, in the magical ranking of Wall Street, job losses have become a sign of corporate health. It sounds strange, but it's actually very simple. In the financial world, what matters isn't how many people you support, but earnings per share. Cut a few thousand people, reduce operating costs, profits divided among the same number of shares, EPS increases, stock price increases. A cold, perfect formula. Only, it's mixed with real tears. A former Best Buy employee once said online, "We help customers choose TVs, but the TVs were the first to announce we were about to be replaced." How ironic. Because while the company talks about digital transformation and AI-assisted customer support, the very people who actually advise customers are the first to be cut from the list. They call it business evolution. I call it AI hiring, human firing. Best Buy boasted to investors that they maintained stable profit margins despite declining revenue. This sentence translates into everyday language as, "We sell less, but we lay off enough people to still make a profit." And so, even the consumers are tightening their belts, Best Buy's stock is still soaring as if nothing is burning beneath this economy. The question here isn't whether Best Buy is smart, but rather, we are living in a system where collective suffering is recognized as a financial achievement. If fewer people mean more efficiency, then wouldn't having no one be the absolute peak of efficiency? And if Best Buy used the formula of cutting people to make their reports look good, then Nike, the brand with the slogan, "Just do it," is about to prove a new, more terrifying version, "Just cut it." Nike, the brand that turned "Just do it" into a global philosophy of life. In the past, that slogan inspired millions of people to push beyond their limits. And now, it's being used again to justify 1,700 layoffs. In July 2025, Nike announced a 2% reduction in its global workforce, equivalent to nearly 2,000 people. Goal: save $2 billion in costs. Market reaction? The stock jumped over 15% in just a few days. Wall Street calls this a rational restructuring. Workers call it the updated version of "Just do it." Just don't need you. Nike says this is part of an innovation strategy focused on technology, sustainable manufacturing, and digital experiences. That sounds great. The only thing is, while they talk about a green future, thousands of real employees are disappearing from the present. Each name crossed out is a family less a dinner, a retirement dream drifting further away. At the Beaverton headquarters, they still hang the "Dream Crazy" slogan on the glass wall. But what seems craziest right now is the way the market is reacting. You lay off thousands of people and the stock goes up. That's the American dream, 2025 edition, when collective pain is translated into profit per share. Interestingly, Nike is not facing a financial crisis. They still make tens of billions in profit every year. But Wall Street doesn't reward stability. It only rewards growth. And the fastest way to grow is to cut people, replacing them with efficiency. This story sounds paradoxical, but it's actually very logical, in the language of a balance sheet. As labor costs decrease, paper profits increase, and so the investor sees green, even though behind them thousands of people are seeing grey. Nike once said, "Just do it," to encourage you to run faster and jump higher. Now, perhaps they're saying that to their finance team, "Just do it. Cut it." And if Nike is the story of cutting to get stronger, then Target, the bright red retailer just across the state of Minnesota, is a testament to the other side of the coin. When you cut too deep, you lose your own purpose. A brand that is both affordable and stylish. But in recent years, Target has been missing the mark. In October 2025, Target announced the elimination of 1,800 office jobs, calling it a restructuring effort to become more flexible. Stocks, it didn't increase as expected. On the contrary, it decreased by over 33% during the year. Why? Because when you cut too much and lose the brand's soul, there's nothing left for investors to believe in. Cutting staff might make the balance sheet look better this quarter, but it can't save a brand that's losing touch with its customers. Consumers feel that Target is no longer itself. Mass-produced products, cold service, and stores that look exactly like every place else. And analysts are more blunt. Target has no cost issues. Target has an identity problem. It sounds like a therapy session, but it's an accurate diagnosis. Therefore, even if the CEO talks about performance or AI operation, customers still won't come back. People don't need another supermarket. They need a place they want to walk into. And Target is now like a shooting target with a faded red circle. The harder you try to aim, the further you miss. Ironically, while Nike laid off employees and its stock soared, Target cut back significantly but was still penalized by the market. It turns out that in the game of Wall Street, it's not about cutting, but about cutting at the right time. And Target seemed to have cut right to its own heart. The story of Target is a stark reminder. Not everything that's streamlined is effective. Sometimes you're so streamlined that there's nothing left to love. No dedicated staff, no warm experience, no loyal customers. Only the red logo remained, looking out of place in the empty hallway. But if Target is struggling with its identity in healthcare, where it should be more humane, CVS Health is on a similar path, laying off thousands of employees, yet the stock is still praised for operational efficiency. Another paradox of our time, where healthcare begins with cutting the caregiver. In 2024, CVS announced it would cut nearly 2,900 jobs, mostly in office roles, to save $2 billion in costs. They call it restructuring to invest in technology. More specifically, investing in AI, self-service kiosks, and automated prescription systems. That is, instead of the pharmacist asking, "How are you?" you will be greeted by a touchscreen asking, "What do you need?" Technology is effective, no one denies it. But in the field of medicine, efficiency sometimes comes at the cost of losing a part of our humanity. CVS is not just a retail chain, but also a part of the national healthcare system. When they cut real staff to replace them with virtual assistants, it not only affects jobs, it also affects trust. However, Wall Street cheered. CVS stock rose slightly after the cost-cutting plan was announced. They say the business is modernizing, but in reality, that's just a polite way of saying, we found a way to make money faster without needing more people. And ironically, a company with the word health in its name is causing thousands of people to lose their jobs, a shock that's anything but healthy. Wall Street calls that performance. And for those who have just lost their jobs, it's a diagnosis that doesn't require a doctor to know it hurts. And so, the journey through 10 American retail empires comes to an end. A journey where every time staff were cut, the stock price rose. But behind those blue graphs, perhaps the only thing declining is the value of human life. And so, we've just gone through 10 names. 10 different stories, but with one common formula. Cut people, stock goes up, and applause from Wall Street. Technology is not flawless. The market is also emotionless. But between those two inanimate things are human beings. You, me, and millions of people trying to hold on to their jobs, their beliefs, and a little bit of self-respect in this cold, performance-driven economy. The question is, can stocks continue to rise when no one has enough money to buy their products? If you find this video thought-provoking, please subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear your perspective. Is this future progress or a cleverly disguised game of efficiency? And finally, all the information in the video is compiled from public sources and is subject to change over time. This is not financial advice. It's a reminder that every number comes at a cost.